lot in the news. Obviously, the media are going absolutely apoplectic over the new James Comey book, which is supposedly filled with bombshells. There's only one problem. There are no bombshells in former FBI Director James Comey's new book. First of all, James Comey called this thing a higher loyalty. A loyalty to, like, the money? Because if this was all stuff of vital public import, then why exactly did he wait a year and a book contract before coming out with it? If he wants to demonstrate that he really is not in it for the cash, that he's really in it because he just wants to tell the truth, then he, like Stormy Daniels, could just give up the money. He's not going to be doing that anytime soon. And the media, I mean, they are so over the moon about this book, but they're really trying to make mountains out of not even molehills. I mean, the stories in this book are nothing. It's all James Comey's whiny opinions. Chris Wallace, I think, said it best on Fox News. He said this book is incredibly bitchy, and it really is. And if you look at this book and you read the segments from it, it's really just nasty and petty and stupid. That's at least what I'm getting from it, because I'm not seeing any revelations here. I'm not seeing anything that says to me, wow, this is something I didn't know. Remember, James Comey was fired because President Trump wanted him to clear him in the Russia investigation publicly. And James Comey said, you're not being investigated. And Trump said, well, say that publicly. And Comey said, no. And Trump said, fine, you're fired. Right? That's exactly what happened. And now we're supposed to believe that something deep and nefarious happened. Comey went on Capitol Hill. He testified that Trump had not obstructed his Russia investigation in any way. Trump just got rid of him because Trump apparently was unhappy with him, that Comey would not publicly say the truth, which is that Trump was not the target of the investigation or even a subject of the investigation at the time. Well, here are some of the revelations that the media are just going nuts over. And it's wall-to-wall coverage of James Comey's book because this was a preset agenda. There's a general point here to be made about the media that I think is relevant for people to understand over the last at least 15 to 20 years, most of my life in politics. And that is, the media are trying to portray it right now as though we live in a Trump-centric universe. Or that we live in this universe where everything revolves around Trump. Every story has to be refracted through the prism of Trump. That's not true. Okay, we actually live in a heliocentric universe, but the helios is not Trump. The helios is the media. Everything is about the media. All stories are refracted through the prism of the media. Trump is refracted through the prism of the media. Trump is a satellite orbiting the media. Right? The media are the grand arbiters of what it is that you see and what it is that you hear, and all of the politicians are speaking to, against, or through the media. And this has never been clearer than it is with regard to how they are treating the Comey stuff, because the Comey stuff is not even a blip, okay? This book is not even a blip. And this is not me coming at it from he's a political hack and all this kind of stuff. This is just, like, as objective as I can be about this. If there had been a bombshell in here, I would have been happy to report it to you. There is nothing. Because Robert De Niro is Al Capone in The Untouchables. He's got nothing. There's nothing here. Nothing. Zero things. Okay, so let's go through some of the supposed revelations. And here, first of all, he did an interview with George Stephanopoulos. It's supposed to air on Sunday. And here are some of the grand revelations. Again, this is all petty nonsense. Here's Stephanopoulos with Comey.
How graphic did you get?
I think as graphic as I needed to be. I started to tell him about the allegation was that he had been involved with prostitutes in a hotel in Moscow in 2013 during a visit for the Miss Universe pageant, and that the Russians had filmed the episode. And he interrupted very defensively and started talking about it. You know, do I look like a guy who needs hookers? And I assumed he was asking that rhetorically. I didn't answer that, and then I just moved on and explained, sir, I'm not saying that we credit this. I'm not saying we believe it. We just thought it very important that you know.
Did you tell him you thought it wasn't true, or you didn't know if it was true or not?
I never said I don't believe it, because I couldn't say one way or another.
How weird was that briefing?
Really weird. It was almost an out-of-body experience for me. I was floating above myself, looking down, saying, you're sitting here briefing the incoming president of the United States about prostitutes in Moscow. He says he may want me to investigate it to prove that it didn't happen. And then he says something that distracted me, because he said, you know, if there's even a 1% chance my wife thinks that's true, that's terrible. And I remember thinking, how could your wife think there's a 1% chance you were with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow? I'm a flawed human being, but there's literally zero chance that my wife would think that was true. So what kind of marriage to what kind of man does your wife think there's only a 99% chance you didn't do that? And I said to him, sir, when he started talking about it, I may order you to investigate that. I said, sir, that's up to you, but you'd want to be careful about that, because it might create a narrative that we're investigating you personally. And second, it's very difficult to prove something didn't happen.
Did you believe his denial?
Honestly, never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible.
Okay, this is such nonsense, stupidity. Okay, there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that Donald Trump was having prostitutes pee on him in Moscow. Honest to God, if the president wanted to, the president doesn't have to pay anyone to pee on him. He's got the media doing it to him full time for free. Right? George Stephanopoulos is peeing on him. Okay, he doesn't need Russian prostitutes doing it for him. But James Comey sitting there and going, you know, it's just insane that the president of the United States would ask me to investigate this thing. And then in the same breath, like literally in the same sentence saying, I don't know if it's true though. I mean, it's possible. Well, if it's possible, then what are you complaining about him saying he wants it investigated to get to the bottom of it? Like you think it's sort of true. And you're not the only one. Like Seth Meyers goes on TV last night and he says, well, clearly if Trump was asking about it, then probably Trump was peed on by Russian prostitutes, which doesn't make any sense at all. But it's amazing. The entire media that went nuts over the pee tape for literally months is now deeply concerned that Donald Trump wanted that investigated and himself cleared of it. Because how could he? How could he do such a thing? Well, maybe it's because you guys kept saying pee tape over and over for weeks. Probably it's that. And here's Seth Meyers making a fool of himself.
Oh my God, it's real. It has to be. Why would you ask the FBI director to investigate a pee tape if you knew for a fact that pee tape definitely didn't exist? That's like me saying, can you make sure there isn't a tape of me in 1994 doing Thunder Road at karaoke and then barfing and then slipping on the barf and farting?
Okay, this is so stupid. Again, if President Trump actually thought he were guilty of this, would he want the FBI looking into it? The logic doesn't even make any sort of basic sense, but because the media are invested in making Trump into a mockery, they're going to say P tape over and over and over and over again until all this is over. Comey, of course, makes a bunch of other allegations in the book. And again, he talked to Stephanopoulos about this. Here's some more of what he had to say to George Stephanopoulos in his big primetime interview that's coming on Sunday. Ooh, it's earth-shattering, except for the fact that all this is really about, as Nate Silver put it, not a man of the right, right? Nate Silver says his book shouldn't be called A Higher Loyalty. It should be called A Higher Royalty. Here is James Comey talking with Stephanopoulos.
President-elect Trump's first question was to confirm that it had no impact on the election. And then the conversation, to my surprise, moved into a PR conversation about how the Trump team would position this and what they could say about this. They actually started talking about drafting a press release with us still sitting there. And the reason that was so striking to me is that that's just not done. That the intelligence community does intelligence, the White House does PR and spin.
Okay, so are we supposed to believe that it's like a big deal that Trump doesn't know how government works? Congratulations, he doesn't know how government works. Wow, you've solved the Rubik's Cube here. You've solved the riddle. President Trump is not an expert on how the government works. Yeah, shocker to everyone. I'm sure everyone involved is just sitting around with their jaw slack to the floor. What utter nonsense and silliness. By the way, Comey said that he did not brief President Trump on the fact that this Fusion GPS dossier was originally funded by Democrats and Hillary Clinton. He didn't reveal that to Trump because presumably he didn't want Trump tweeting that out. That if he had known that the dossier was funded by the Democrats, he just would have said the dossier was funded by the Democrats. And then that would have immediately undercut the credibility of the dossier. So he said he didn't think it was relevant for Trump to know that. Okay, so it's relevant for Trump to know about stupid allegations with no evidence to back them about a pee tape with Russians peeing on each other and him. But it's not important at all for Trump to know that those allegations were being compiled by a firm being paid by Hillary Clinton. Completely irrelevant. Yeah, no, Comey's not a political actor at all. Okay, so here are some of the other allegations that Comey makes in the book that are supposed to be earth-shattering. So he says that he received a call from John Kelly, who's then the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and now the White House Chief of Staff. And Kelly was, quote unquote, emotional over how Comey was fired. Comey writes that Kelly was sick about the situation and intended to quit in protest. Well, he didn't, did he? He's still around, is he not? He is the White House Chief of Staff. So apparently, who cares? Also, I love this. A couple other bombshells. Apparently, Comey ridicules Trump for being shorter than he anticipated and described Trump as having bright white half moons beneath his eyes. He also argued that Trump's ties were too long, according to the Associated Press, and suggested that when he shook Trump's hand, he evaluated his hand size. He said they might have been a little bit small, but not that much smaller than normal. That's not petty and ridiculous. That's not petty and silly. No, this is deep stuff that we all have to know about. I mean, James Comey is a man of honor. He's a man of deep honor. Sure, he blew the Hillary investigation. Sure, he botched everything he touched since basically like January 2016. But no, he's a man of honor, don't you understand? He's not out there grandstanding, getting $1 million advances and then going on national TV to talk about Trump's hand size. No, no. He is a man of deep and abiding respect and honor for institutions.